Hey guys, it's Pineapple, nice to see you again. Today we're talking about Ochako Uraraka and how good or bad her character is in MHA, so let's get right into it after that intro. Hit it! Is Ochako Uraraka the best character in My Hero Academia? The best lead female character in Shonen? Well, no. However, I do think Ochako is probably one of My Hero Academia's most misunderstood characters. Ochako is a character who initially wanted to become a hero for the sake of her parents, but from that removed perspective, she began to see that heroes were actually some of the people who needed help the most, and that really cemented itself with Night Eye's death. From there, her character has been about finding a balance between saving civilians and supporting heroes in any way that you can when they're in trouble. There's a narrative though in the fandom that her entire character revolves around Deku, a critique you can make for nearly any student in 1A, especially Bakugo, considering their role in learning, reinforcing, and spreading their and Deku's logic of working together and worrying about saving each other instead of doing things as they have been over the course of hero society so far. Ochako, like many others, wants to save other heroes, something that's been focused on quite a bit, and yes, a lot of that did involve Deku, because Deku doesn't think of himself, and he's one of the most heroic in the series, so he's the perfect character to use from a narrative standpoint to help point out Ochako's growth and her ability to be able to help even heroes like Deku, who have so much on their shoulders but won't ask for assistance. For a lot of people, their understanding of Ochako stops at her wanting to make her parents rich. Dig a little further though, and you can find quite a bit to break down about her desire to save heroes. But beyond that, which is still kind of like a surface level thing, what's most important about Ochako's plot is absolutely her tie to Himiko Toga. While Ochako has realized that heroes need help, through Toga, Hori is offering her a chance to see that villains aren't just people who need to be caught or taken down. Often, in fact, they're the ones screaming out for help the most and being ignored. In fact, thanks to My Villain Academia's arc, we know that often villains are usually the victim of just one bad day that takes them from an average civilian to something that needs to be hunted down, a threat to society. By tying her to Toga, we give Ochako a chance to witness a character who, thanks to MVA, we know struggles with being a villain because she's just trying to live a quote-unquote normal life, and nobody in her life has ever attempted to dig a path for her to do so. They all forced her into theirs and made her wear a mask to hide who she really was. With Ochako, Toga's trying to see if there's any hope in the thought that a hero could see her for more than just a dangerous villain, but as a victim who would rather go on dates and buy pretty clothes than live on the run. But because of something biological that she was born with and can't change, she's unable to do that, and she's constantly hunted down by the people that Ochako thinks need the most help. That hypocrisy is part of the heart of answering one of the biggest questions in the series, one that we'll loop back to pretty often in this video, but the question of course is, what is a hero? And vice versa, more importantly, what is a villain? Ochako saw how happy heroes make people, but questioned what happens when they need help. She saw how sad villains make people, but is starting to question the same thing. Many characters have two conflicting or parallel questions that they have to ask themselves in My Hero Academia to evolve. Her coming to terms with both questions and answering them for herself is the ground that she walks on her journey to become the best hero that she can be and one of the greatest heroes, like Deku suggests the story is about. I often feel like scenes where Ochako really shows off her growth and her ability to manage being able to save heroes while handling a tough situation get glossed over by the fandom. For instance, in the joint training arc, Shinso has to find his place as a hero after a life of being told that his quirk is more like a supervillain's quirk or that he was creepy. He needed to find out if it was okay for him to give up on that dream or if it was worth it to try, and if he did try, could he find success in becoming a hero? If so, what does that mean about other characters who seem like they'd clearly be villains because of their quirks? Should we look at someone like Toga with her blood sucking or Shigaraki with his decay and instantly say, as All For One did, that someone like them only had one fate? So here in this arc where Shinso is being tested on whether or not he can even become a hero, Ochako, being the hero who saves/protects her fellow heroes who need help, not only leapt in to save Deku, but while she was saving Deku from Black Whip, she called on Shinso to use his brainwashing to assist in saving Deku, which is one of the first times he's ever used his quirk to save anyone. Considering Shinso's character and what we know about him from the sports festival and joint training, him not being able to use his quirk to be a hero is actually something that weighs pretty heavily on him. It's the flaw he's trying the most to overcome. No one looks at him as a hero up until this point, but Ochako did in the moment. So for people to say that Ochako is limited to only having her plot revolve around Deku, it's very simple honestly. Yes, Deku is involved in her development. I mean, they have a lot of parallels even between the Shigaraki and Deku plotline and the Himiko Toga and Ochako plotline. But you also have to realize that she's involved in his development, and the same applies for nearly every student in the class and even Aizawa. But to suggest that Ochako's plotline entirely revolves around Deku instead of understanding that Deku is just a great tool to use for her narrative is either being woefully ignorant or just not reading. Instead, appreciate how interesting it is that on the side of Deku's journey to try and figure out if everyone is indeed worth saving and how to do it, you have Ochako who focuses on the heroes and saving them as she's slowly realizing a villain is a potential hero who was never saved. At the same time that Deku and I feel like society at large is starting to discover the same thing. If Shigaraki was saved, or really any of the villains were saved at key moments in their lives, they would be allies or heroes, and suddenly Ochako would want to support them, which is ridiculous. That's why she realizes, oh wait, Toga is actually a victim. Same thing with Deku and Shigaraki. Shigaraki's been placed in the situation that he was in as a child, but this time there's no decaying his way out of it. Unless someone saves him like they failed to do when he was younger, there's no way to beat him, or prove that society has changed and the new heroes have grown. So I think Nana, the root of him wanting to be a hero, and the sprinkling of her telling him to never forget, and their interactions are all leading to a point where Shiggy has to face the reality of what he really wanted all along, which was to be a hero. But again, what is a hero? And as with Eri, even if you save Shigaraki, what then? Is there any hope that he can change with his cursed quirk? I mean, you can see the obvious parallels, and would anyone even be able to accept him if he tried to walk that path after everything he's done? Of course, I've said in my opinion that Shigaraki will get his heroic moment by taking down All For One before he takes over the entire world like it seems that he plans to. But even just that act alone might make Shigaraki what some would consider a hero. And that leaves questions for the other characters who are set up for someone to try and save them in the final arc. Sorry for that little Shigaraki tangent, I promise it relates to Ochako and Toga, we're looping it back around. Deku is clearly trying to save Shigaraki. The Todorokis are clearly trying to save Toya, and Ochako, I feel, is going to try and save Toga. But what then? Is there any way that any of these three could be accepted? Either way, I'm glad that's even a question because I'm not one who wants to see every villain redeemed, but I think if Ochako continues to question herself and her ideals and question the situations of others like she has of Toga, then she'll continue to be a main focus in answering that what is a hero question. And I feel like more than other characters, she does a good job at giving us a look at the complicated process of going from someone who only wanted to make money to help her family to someone who wanted to save heroes, and now someone who finally realizes that anyone could be a hero. So just like she wants to reach her hands out to save and uplift her fellow heroes, who at times make themselves victims, she's gaining the empathy and understanding to do the same for the villains. Ultimately, I do think that makes her character important enough to bring to the final battle as they did, because I do think it's important to have all these plot lines resolving at the same time thanks to all their parallels. So again, if you ask me why do I feel like Ochako is one of My Hero Academia's most effective side characters, the answer is because considering one of the main questions in the series is what is a hero, I feel like Ochako is one of the characters who best explores that question by making us consider that someone who helps heroes is a hero, meaning that helpful civilians can be heroes, and that heroes aren't the only ones who need help. Often villains are the ones who need help the most, and their actions are a reflection of that. So how far should a hero go to help someone who's been given the label villain? A hero's job up until now has been to beat villains and save civilians. Ochako's plot shows us that in truth, a hero's true job is to help people, which means helping villains come back from that path, helping civilians live normal everyday lives, and helping heroes deal with the struggles of being a hero. This process of everyone looking out for each other, even the villains, to create a better society where hopefully no one else like Tenko or Toga is born, is parallel to Deku's plotline, which does tell us the same things a lot of the times, but Ochako not only reinforces that from another angle, but when Deku, who's prone to going off on All Might-like plans, starts falling back on the things that he shouldn't do, Ochako steps in and, like with her speech, sets Deku and pretty much all of Japan back on the right path just by speaking from her heart about someone who she knows needs all the help that he can get. And even in that brave moment, she couldn't help but remember that everything she's saying about giving someone who needs help applies to Toga as well, just like Deku has realized about Tenko. Few of our lead characters present and attempt to answer the question of what is a hero from more angles and more successfully than Ochako's story is able to do as she learns the answers to those questions for herself, and as she begins to understand where the line between who she will and won't save is. There's a reason why that question is so important for us to hear from Deku and Ochako, and Hori had Toga say that she wanted to hear from the two of them about who is truly unsavable. We've seen Deku's answer, and I think after first getting it wrong, we've also seen Ochako's. I feel like Ochako is going to manage to save Toga, and that by the end of the series, we'll maybe see Toga getting help, or if we really do end up seeing our characters as adults in the final chapters, maybe after serving her time, Toga is still friends with Ochako or Deku as she continues to reform herself after being saved. Regardless, that's been my little character discussion / rant on Ochako's character, and how I think she's a very effective side character in My Hero Academia who reinforces the themes of the series and isn't just used to be a pretty NPC or a damsel in distress for the main character to want to be with or save.